They promised us sizzling perfection, but how many of those steaks are really safe to eat? A shocking 2023 report revealed that nearly 40% of chain steakhouses in America failed at least one health inspection in the past 3 years. How many of those greasy, smiling plates were hiding cheap cuts, chemical tenderizers, or meat sitting at unsafe temperatures for hours? And how many families, trying to treat themselves just once in a while, unknowingly paid to gamble with food poisoning? The truth hits harder when you think about who's at risk the most: older folks on fixed incomes, workers saving for weeks just to sit down with their loved ones, believing the steak in front of them was worth their sacrifice. But is it? Are you sure the ribeye you proudly serve your grandkids wasn't once lying next to a trash can, or soaked in liquid smoke to fake its flavor? Some steakhouses have turned betrayal into a business model, selling you nostalgia while cutting every corner possible. But here's the rare good news: 2 steakhouses still respect the craft, the customer, and the steak itself. This is the Downturn Report, where the truth gets personal. Today, we'll expose the worst offenders, then show you the 2 that are actually worth every penny. Number 1, Sizzler. On a worn-out Sunday, when your wallet's as thin as a diner napkin, Sizzler's glowing sign winks like a smooth-talking car salesman, promising a juicy steak for just $15. It's the kind of place that feels like a warm hug from yesteryear, with its all-you-can-eat buffet and family-friendly vibes plastered across ads from California to Ohio. For retirees and working folks pinching pennies, Sizzler seems like a safe bet, and a nostalgic joint where you can heap your plate high without breaking the bank. You might walk in dreaming of a tender sirloin, maybe even picturing a cozy meal for grandma's birthday. But brace yourself. Sizzler's promises are as shaky as a 3-legged chair, and what's hiding behind that buffet line will leave your stomach sour and your trust as brittle as burnt toast. The steaks here aren't just bad. They're actually a culinary con, tougher than a cheap tire and blander than day-old coffee. Yelp and Reddit reviews from 2023 and 2024 call Sizzler's sirloins chewy enough for a dog toy or tasting like a microwave relic from the Ford era. A Sacramento Yelp post from 2023 griped, "My steak was so tough it could have doubled as a hockey puck." A 2022 Consumer Reports survey ranked Sizzler's steaks among the worst, with 68% of diners bemoaning poor texture or no flavor. Why Sizzler uses USDA select beef, lean as a scarecrow, often frozen and reheated until it's drier than a desert wind. The buffet churns meat like a factory, with cooks racing time, not chasing quality. A 2023 Glassdoor post from an Arizona ex-employee spilled, "We pre-cooked steaks and left them wilting under heat lamps. Medium rare fat chance. Worse. Sizzler's kitchens are often filthier than a gas station sink." A 2022 Nevada inspection hit a Las Vegas spot for contaminated surfaces and improperly stored meat, risking food poisoning that could floor retirees scraping by. Post of a roach dancing across a Texas salad bar went viral, sparking 1,000 retweets and quips like "I'd rather grill my lawnmower." For folks dodging doctor bills, this is a 5-alarm fire. Aging locations, stuck in the Carter years, sport sticky tables like a dive bar's floor. Service servers act like you're interrupting their coffee break, with older patrons feeling ghosted. Florida TripAdvisor review fumed, waited 30 minutes for a server who huffed when I asked for no salt, with $9 to $11 hourly wages. Indifference rules. Why should your hard-earned cash buy a cold shoulder the kicker? The Humane Society report exposed Sizzler's suppliers cramming cattle into feedlots harsher than a jail cell, with no shade, just suffering. Your dollars fund this cruelty, a slap to anyone valuing decency. A 2020 California lawsuit alleged Sizzler cheated older workers out of $1.2 million in overtime. For folks who felt shortchanged, this burns like overcooked meat. Sizzler's cheap prices are a trap, risking your health and trust for a meal as empty as a broken promise. Instead, seek out Bob's Diner in Indiana, where a $12 sirloin sizzles fresh with a senior discount. Or sear a $7 a pound USDA choice sirloin at home with a $1 can of corn for a $10 feast. Craving variety? A $5 a pound chuck roast stir fry with soy sauce and frozen veggies beats Sizzler's menu for $8. Why risk regret when you can savor a win on your own plate? Number 2, Golden Corral. Some places smile at you like an old friend, only to stab you in the back the second you look away. Golden Corral is that kind of friend. It lures you in with the smell of sizzling steaks and the promise of endless choices, whispering sweet nothings to your wallet as if it actually cares about your struggle. The idea of sitting down, loosening your belt, and eating like a king for less than $15 sounds almost too good to question, especially for those who've worked all week just to afford that one special meal. But how many times have we learned the hard way that when a deal seems too good to be true, it usually is? And here's the kicker. What if the steak on your plate once sat baking in the sun, keeping company with flies and garbage cans? The ugly truth ripped through Golden Corral's shiny image in the year 2013, when a Florida worker filmed something straight out of a crime show: raw ribs and beef slabs stacked outside near dumpsters, sweating under the scorching heat, waiting for inspectors to leave before being carried back inside. Does it make you sick to imagine laughing with your grandkids over cornbread, not knowing the steak you proudly cut for them had spent its morning baking next to a trash can? Some people tried to laugh it off online, calling it Trash Can Corral, but no one laughs when they're clutching their stomach at 2 in the morning. And that video was just the crack in the wall. Behind it was a flood of rot. Customers across the country described steaks tasting sour or rubbery, gray slabs arriving at tables lukewarm and lifeless, as if they'd been reheated 3 times before anyone touched them. Former employees, venting in kitchen forums, admitted that the chain buys the cheapest USDA select beef it can find, then pumps it full of chemicals to fool you into thinking it's fresh. One ex-worker joked, "It's like putting a tuxedo on a raccoon and calling it a gentleman, except that raccoon spends nearly an hour sweating under a heat lamp before being tossed on your plate." Health inspectors didn't paint a prettier picture either. In Amarillo, Texas, in 2018, flies buzzed over raw meat stations while cooked food sat at unsafe temperatures. Kentucky inspectors found mold in the ice machine and raw beef stored above fresh vegetables, basically a petri dish with a buffet label slapped on top. And let's talk about the staff lawsuits accused the company of squeezing workers so hard that one person was often left to run both the grill and the buffet. If the guy who flipped your steak also mopped the bathroom 5 minutes earlier, what do you think is really ending up on your plate? It feels like a cruel joke on anyone who saved up for this treat. You scrape together cash, you sit with your family, and then you find out the meat you proudly served might have been kissed by flies before you even walked in. That isn't just disappointing, it's humiliating, and it's dangerous. So what do you do when a place you trusted feels more like a con artist than a restaurant? You start getting smarter. Bob Evans. Yes, the breakfast joint everyone teases actually serves hand-cut sirloins, grilled fresh to order, something Golden Corral can only pretend to do now. Better yet, skip the chains and talk to your local butcher. Chuck eye or flat iron cuts, seared in a simple cast iron skillet, taste richer than anything you'll find sweating under a buffet lamp. Even a slow-cooked pot roast at home beats gambling on whether your steak spent the morning beside a dumpster, because once you've been burned like this, the taste of betrayal lingers longer than any overcooked beef ever could. Number 3. Ponderosa and Bonanza Steakhouses. There is something bitter about realizing a place you once trusted for family dinners now treats your health like loose change in a tip jar. Ponderosa and Bonanza Steakhouses built their reputation as the neighborhood steak place, the kind of spots where hardworking folks could relax, laugh with their kids, and enjoy a steak dinner without worrying about their wallets. It felt honest, dependable like an old pickup that might rattle but always got you home. But what if that trust was nothing more than a cheap sales pitch? What if the steak you proudly cut for your family had been sitting in a warming tray so long it was closer to jerky than beef? The stories coming from former employees sound like confessions, not workplace memories. Multiple workers have admitted that steaks are often pre-cooked in bulk hours before dinner rushes, reheated on griddles or microwaves to fake that fresh-off-the-grill sizzle. One ex-cook in Ohio admitted some steaks sat drying in warming trays for more than an hour, and if you complained, you often got a replacement just as old. The odds of biting into a steak cooked fresh for you were about as slim as pulling a winning lottery ticket. And then there's the buffet, once the pride of these chains, now a health inspector's nightmare. In Pennsylvania, back in 2017, a Ponderosa failed inspection after expired beef patties were stored next to cooked vegetables, inviting cross-contamination. Food sat at unsafe temperatures below the 140-degree safety mark. A year later. A Bonanza in Michigan was cited for mold in its ice machine and cutting boards coated in raw meat residue. Family friendly. Only if your idea of family fun includes playing roulette with E. coli. The meat itself tells another ugly story, despite the ads bragging about aged and seasoned for flavor. Insiders say much of the beef is low-grade USDA Select or worse, heavily tenderized with mechanical needles, if mishandled. This process can push bacteria deep inside the meat. One former cook compared the pre-packaged seasoning blends to salt bombs that make everything taste like bad airline food. And honestly, that might be generous. Even worse, former employees have accused management of forcing staff to recycle buffet leftovers, chopping up uneaten steak for stews, or reusing sauces that had sat out for hours. In 2015, a Bonanza in Illinois faced accusations of underpaying workers and denying breaks, leaving staff so overworked they barely had time to wash their hands. And if someone doesn't have time to wash their hands, do you really trust what they're putting on your plate? For anyone who grew up thinking of these chains as a safe treat, it feels like betrayal. It's like discovering that friendly neighbor who used to wave at you has been borrowing your tools and pawning them behind your back. So skip the gamble. Perkins Restaurant and Bakery. The breakfast spot has been quietly earning praise for freshly grilled sirloins that actually taste like someone cooked them for you. Or grab a flat iron or flank steak from Kroger's private selection line, marinated overnight with olive oil, garlic, and black pepper, then sear it hot in a cast iron pan. Even a slow-baked meatloaf at home beats eating regret by the forkful. Once you know how cheaply Ponderosa and Bonanza sold out your trust, it's impossible to take another bite without tasting the betrayal. Number 4, Outback Steakhouse. Outback Steakhouse strutted into America like a cowboy from a Saturday night movie, selling the dream of rugged adventure with a dash of Aussie charm. The commercials were slick, the sirloin sizzled on open flames, and the bloomin' onion winked at you from the plate like an old friend. No rules, just right, they whispered. As if for one night you could forget the stack of bills at home and pretend you were treating yourself to something special. But when a chain waves a slogan about having no rules, maybe we should have asked no rules for who, because once you look behind the swinging saloon doors, just right starts to feel more like just wrong. The steak, the heart of their promise, is where the illusion cracks the loudest. Outback loves to paint pictures of premium, hand-cut beef, but former employees have pulled back the curtain on that story. Much of the meat arrives vacuum-sealed, pre-portioned from central suppliers, and often treated with carbon monoxide gas to keep it looking fresh long after it should have turned dull. The cuts are usually USDA choice or lower, despite menu descriptions that whisper steakhouse luxury. One former chef in Texas described the routine bluntly: it's paint-by-numbers cooking, press a button, pour packet seasoning, hope nobody notices, and with chemical tenderizers and sodium-heavy marinades masking the flavor. Some steaks taste closer to processed lunch meat than a real ribeye. Those pretty grill marks you admire, more than one ex-worker has admitted they're often branded on with a press, not seared over flames, especially during busy hours when speed outruns quality. Health records tell another ugly tale. In 2018, a Kansas location was cited for improper meat storage temperatures and cross-contamination, with raw chicken stored next to steaks. A North Carolina Outback failed an inspection after inspectors found mold in beverage dispensers and cutting boards coated with residue from both vegetables and raw meat. And who can forget the viral 2016 video? An employee filmed greasy prep stations and trays of meat sitting out at room temperature during a Saturday dinner rush. People joke about the bloomin' onion being greasy enough to oil a truck axle, but that joke stops being funny when it applies to the steak you're feeding your family. Behind the scenes, the people running the show don't seem to fare much better. Outback's parent company, Bloomin' Brands, has faced lawsuits for wage theft and discriminatory scheduling. Former servers describe being stretched so thin that food safety steps like washing hands between stations often get skipped just to keep up with orders. And if the folks cooking your steak don't have time to wash their hands, do you really believe they're carefully checking temperatures? For those who once thought of Outback as an affordable, nicer option, a family night out, or maybe even a cheap date, the truth feels like a slap. You thought you were getting something special, maybe a small taste of adventure from the land down under. Instead, you got mass-produced meat, gassed for color, branded for show, and cooked by people too rushed to do it right. It's like buying a cowboy hat made of cardboard and being told it's leather pretty until it rains. And then the truth soaks through. If steak still calls your name, better choices are out there. Firebird's wood-fired grill, if you can find one nearby, has earned real praise for its wood-fired ribeye juicy, smoky, and cooked to order. On a tighter budget, head to Meijer's Butcher section. Their certified Angus beef sirloins cost less than Outback's cheapest cut. Sear it hot in a cast iron pan with butter and garlic, and you'll taste the difference in every bite. Or, if you'd rather keep things soft and easy on the stomach, slow-cooked shredded beef tacos made from chuck roast offer all the flavor without the gamble. The truth is simple. Outback's no rules doesn't mean freedom, it means corners cut. Trust broken. And a steak that's little more than a dressed-up disappointment. Number 5. Logans Roadhouse. Logans Roadhouse once sold itself as the beating heart of blue-collar America, a place where the smoky scent of grilled ribeye mixed with the crunch of peanut shells under your boots, where a cheap beer and a big steak felt like a well-earned reward after a brutal week. It wrapped itself in rustic charm, with neon signs buzzing like roadside truck stops and country music blasting as if to say, "This is where real folks eat real steak." But when the music fades and the peanut shells stop crunching, what's left isn't grit or honesty, it's a corporate engine running on cut corners, cheap beef, and broken trust. The steak, the soul of Logan's promise, tells the real story. Over the past decade, customers have complained about steaks getting smaller, thinner, and riddled with gristle, a trend that suspiciously matches Logan's multiple bankruptcies and ownership changes. A former line cook in Tennessee revealed in a viral post that after 2016, Logan switched to cheaper suppliers, with most locations receiving USDA select beef at best far from the choice or prime quality splashed across their menu. Employees admitted to pounding these cuts with mechanical tenderizers to fake tenderness, a process that can push bacteria deep into the meat if cooked carelessly. One ex-worker summed it up bitterly. "We don't season steaks anymore. We just beat them until they stop fighting back." The kitchen practices are no less alarming. In 2019, a Georgia Logans was cited for fryer oil so old it had turned black, leaving steaks and sides with a bitter, rancid aftertaste. An Alabama location failed inspection after raw beef was found thawing in standing water at room temperature, stored dangerously close to desserts in the same cooler. On consumer forums, diners complain of greasy, unevenly cooked steaks arriving lukewarm, as if rushed through the grill with little care. That smoky grill flavor they brag about, a former cook admitted it often comes from liquid smoke brushed on right before serving basically bottled barbecue perfume masking low-quality meat. And it doesn't stop at bad food. Logan's has been dragged into lawsuits over age discrimination, accused of cutting hours for older workers to avoid paying benefits. Former staff claim they were pressured to serve questionable food, with one whistleblower recounting being told to scrape off the bad parts of steaks that smelled wrong because throwing them out was too expensive. In understaffed kitchens, hygiene takes a back seat to speed, leaving diners gambling with more than just their wallets. For folks who once saw Logan's as a place that respected working people, it feels like betrayal. You walk in expecting a slice of honest Americana, but what you get tastes more like corporate panic than craftsmanship, a greasy steak that's all show and no soul. It's like buying a shiny used truck only to find duct tape holding the engine together. You don't have to settle for that. O'Charlie's, while no saint, still serves thicker, juicier hand-cut sirloins praised by many diners for being closer to the real deal, if you cook at home. H-E-B's Prime 1 beef line in Texas offers ribeyes that consistently beat chain steaks in blind taste tests. Or trade the disappointment for something comforting and honest, a slow-cooked beef and vegetable stew made from fresh chuck roast soft on the teeth, kind to the heart, and far better than chewing through corporate lies. Because Logans Roadhouse isn't the hero of the working man anymore, it's just another chain serving up nostalgia on the walls and regret on the plate, no matter how many peanut shells they scatter on the floor. We've taken a hard look at the worst offenders, the so-called steakhouses that promised honest meals but served up disappointment, greasy shortcuts, and betrayal on a plate. From Golden Corral's dumpster scandals to Logans Roadhouse's cost-cutting desperation, the message was painfully clear: too many chains have sold out working families for a few extra pennies. But, as promised in the title, Not every steakhouse has given up on doing things the right way. There are still places where steak is treated with respect, cooked with care, and served without the cheap tricks and corporate sleight of hand. So now, let's switch gears. Number 6 and number 7 aren't warnings, they're the rare bright spots. The two steakhouses that still deserve your trust. And first on that short, hard-earned list is a name that has managed to keep its reputation intact through decades of changing times. Number 6, Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. Ruth's Chris Steakhouse has long been the crown jewel for steak lovers, a name that whispers luxury the moment you hear it. For decades, it has been the dream destination for anniversaries, retirement dinners, or that one night a year when a hardworking man takes his wife out and feels like he's giving her the world. The promise has always been simple, yet powerful, perfectly seared USDA prime steaks, sizzling in butter on a scorching 500-degree plate, served by staff trained to treat you like royalty. Unlike the chains that cater to quick turnarounds and cheap thrills, Ruth's Chris has held itself out as a sanctuary of tradition and quality, a place where the steak is supposed to be the hero, not just a sidekick to marketing hype. And, shockingly in this age of shortcuts and corporate cost-cutting, Ruth's Chris has largely lived up to that promise. What sets Ruth's Chris apart isn't just the high-grade beef, it's the meticulous attention to detail and how that beef is handled. While many chains quietly switch to pre-cut, vacuum-packed meat to save labor costs, Ruth's Chris still uses hand-selected USDA prime cuts, often wet-aged for at least 21 days to enhance tenderness. Each steak is cooked to order in a specialized broiler that reaches 1800 degrees, ensuring a crisp caramelized crust while locking in juices. The famous sizzling butter plate isn't just theatrics, it helps keep the steak hot throughout the meal. A small but meaningful detail that shows respect for the customer's experience. Former chefs who've worked there describe a kitchen that still runs on old-school discipline, where precision is valued more than speed and almost unheard of commitment in a time when other chains are microwaving their so-called premium cuts. Inspections and public health records back up the reputation. Unlike many steakhouse chains with recurring violations, Ruth's Chris rarely appears in food safety scandals, and when it does, it's typically minor infractions like a mislabeled cooler, quickly resolved. A 2022 Consumer Reports survey ranked Ruth's Chris among the top national steakhouses for consistency, with diners praising not just the steak but the cleanliness and professionalism of the staff. Even disgruntled former employees, who are quick to criticize wages and long hours, often concede that food safety and kitchen standards remain high proof that some promises aren't just marketing fluff. For an older, working-class audience, Ruth's Chris might feel like a splurge, and truthfully, it is. Prices have climbed steeply in recent years, with some prime ribeye cuts now exceeding $60 a plate, but many diners argue it's worth it for a once-a-year treat, if only because you know what you're getting: real, unadulterated beef cooked with care. No chemical tenderizers, no liquid smoke sprayed to fake flavor, no mystery cuts passed off as premium. You're paying for honesty as much as for the meal itself. Still, not everyone can or wants to pay those prices, especially if you're stretching every dollar on a fixed income. But that doesn't mean you can't bring a bit of Ruth's Chris magic into your own kitchen. Pick up a USDA choice ribeye or strip steak from Safeway's Open Nature line, which often rivals restaurant-grade meat when cooked properly. Use a hot cast iron skillet, a generous pat of butter, and let the steak rest properly to recreate that sizzling, juicy finish. For those who need a cheaper but still satisfying alternative, try oven-roasted beef tenderloin tips. They cook fast, are naturally tender, and can be dressed up with garlic butter to feel indulgent without draining your wallet. Because at the end of the day, Ruth's Chris stands as a rare reminder that not every steakhouse has sold its soul to corporate shortcuts. In a world where so many places now serve reheated regret disguised as steak, Ruth's Chris remains one of the last true guardians of the craft. It's expensive, yes, but sometimes peace of mind knowing exactly what's on your plate is worth every penny. Number 7. Longhorn Steakhouse. Longhorn Steakhouse doesn't try to fool you with fancy slogans or exotic dreams. It simply promises a good steak, cooked right. That straightforward honesty has won over blue-collar families and retirees who just want a dependable meal after a long week, while other chains chase gimmicks. Longhorn quietly focuses on what matters, respecting the beef and the customer. Unlike many competitors drowning their steaks in chemical tenderizers, Longhorn uses fresh, never frozen USDA choice beef, often sourced from domestic suppliers. Former employees have said steaks are hand-seasoned and cooked to order over open flame grills, not microwaved or pre-seared for speed. Grill cooks follow strict temperature guidelines, which is why a medium-rare ribeye usually arrives just as it should warm, juicy, and never burned to a crisp. Health records reflect this commitment. Though no chain is perfect, Longhorn rarely appears in food safety scandals, and surveys in 2021 ranked it among the cleanest national steakhouses, even when mistakes happen. Staff reportedly remake dishes without hesitation, proof that customer trust still matters here. It's not flawless, sides can feel mass-produced, and quality varies slightly between locations. But for working-class diners tired of overhyped chains, Longhorn's quiet reliability feels refreshing. A fair price. A steak cooked with care sometimes. That simple honesty is the best thing on the menu. A good steak isn't just food, it's trust on a plate. Choose wisely, demand better, and never settle for shortcuts. Your health, your family, your peace of mind deserve nothing less.
Thank you for watching today's video all the way through. If you found the content helpful, don't forget to click like and subscribe to stay updated to our latest daily videos. Now feel free to check out other featured videos currently shown on your screen. Goodbye, and see you in the next video.